Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and this week I'm delighted to be joined by Steve-O and Paddy from Celtic World Order. Welcome back to Barra's Art and Design. Steve-O, this is your second appearance, and Paddy, it's your first. You've come all the way from Celtic World Order. I'm here to talk all things Celtic, but we've finally got you on the show. I've been wondering who this enigma is. It's Paddy. It's the man who ran on the park in the Peter Grant testimonial and went straight for Jurgen Klinsmann. Yeah. Ignoring all the main men on the pitch, straight for Jurgen, and you were that guy. You still got the jersey?
I certainly have. I sent you a wee picture of it. Yeah, listen, growing up, everybody had their heroes. For me, Jurgen Klinsmann was that man. The celebration, the big dive, sliding across the deck and things like that, brilliant. So when I finally got the chance, obviously hearing that Bayern Munich were coming to play for Peter Grant's testimonial, I thought, right, this is my only opportunity. So I went there, I had my Germany top on, I had my Celtic zipper, and my uncle took me to the game, and after it I just seen a slight opportunity, so I hopped the barrier and ran.
Did you get chased?
I get chased off of one of the stewards, but straight past everybody. I remember running past Peter Grant. I think Big Van Hooijdonk was there as well. Straight past them, and obviously Jurgen Klinsmann was kind of just near the centre circle when I got there. Pen out of the pocket, please sign my top, and he did. He signed my top, and then I ran away again and went straight back up the main stand. No, I didn't get caught. I was quite lucky.
So. That's phenomenal. What age were you?
Oh, geez, I want to say about 12.
Right. That takes a bit of doing. That takes a bit of balls. I've got to say, I've never invaded the pitch. Even after St Johnstone '98, I've never done it. I was kind of pushed into doing it in the '95 Cup final by someone who later on that night when I'm watching the game is huckled by the cops. He was trying to get me on the park and didn't do it. Steve-O, are you willing to admit that you've done it?
I've never been on it, no. I've never been on the pitch, so I mean, I'd love to be there legitimately on the pitch. I've certainly never done it. I could practice Paddy's my chance all the time. All the years I've known, none's changed.
Nah, that's kind of how I live my life. I mean, shy boys don't get sweeties, and that's
so true. But we started off with Bayern Munich, so let's use this for me as a starting point. So last season, Bayern Munich were in the playoff. We're talking progression. I think we were generally happy up to that point. Let's talk about where we were up to that point, Champions League wise, Steve-O, because it's all about trying to build on that. So when you were looking at that as a fan last season, and you had these two kind of glamour games against Bayern Munich to look forward to, what's your thoughts? We're finally doing something worthwhile.
You know, the last time we spoke, we mentioned it in passing, and as I said then, I say again, the draw was ideal. It was great for, you know, the glamour, as you say, and testing yourself against the big boys, but the options being either Real Madrid or Bayern Munich, as I said before, it was like, do you want stabbed or shot? Take it, you know. But I thought we gave a really, really good account of ourselves, and it's sliding doors, small margins, whatever term you want to put on it. We gave them a right good game, but at the end of the day, it counts for nothing. It gives a good account of yourself, but it was the same position we find ourselves in now. We needed those reinforcements. When that came around for that game, we should have been wanting to get in one, maybe two players. And it was when you looked at what you finished with on the pitch, that's when you saw you were so short with those options. I thought something to build on, but also it should be a lesson of this is why you go out and spend the money, because it was that narrow, that tight. There'd be more players you could have maybe got a goal in extra time, won it properly in regulation time even. It wasn't to be. I just hope that they learned from it as we look towards potentially Champions League this year.
Yep, I think that's why it's important to use it as a starting point, because you look at how close we came, Paddy, and Brendan Rodgers wasn't confident with his bench. When you look at the changes that he didn't make, he wasn't confident with his bench, and we're so close. And you're looking at the players, for me, who in that campaign kind of grew, one being Kuhn, who leaves the building. And what I've been saying over the last couple of weeks is the board need to focus on, we just don't, we're not entitled to get that kind of money for every player. But if you've performed at that level on that platform, that's when clubs are interested in coming in with the big figures. So that's what they feed off of, the board. They should be looking at it and saying, right, let's go again. I mean, right now, if we were to face Bayern Munich with the squad we've got at this moment in time, it's going to be a different story, isn't it?
Yeah, if you lead back to the Dortmund game, it would be a similar situation, I'd imagine. We spoke about it before, and it's all about quality. Quality going off the park and the same quality coming on, and you want to keep replacing that. And at the current state of affairs, I don't think we have that in many positions. You've got to be proactive rather than being reactive, and I think we're at this stage where we're starting to be reactive. you're talking about getting rid of guys like Kuhn. Kuhn went away. Who did we replace him with? Nobody really. I mean, you've got Yang and James Forrest, and listen, they've come on, they've done a job for us, but if you'd have told us at the beginning of last season that would be our two main wingers going into the Champions League qualifier, then you wouldn't have been very happy, would you?
No, absolutely not. See, when you think about Brendan Rodgers and what he says, some of it's coded, some of it's quite blunt, and he's the only guy that we hear from. We don't hear from the chief exec, the chairman.
True.
You know,
He has the voice for all.
Yes, absolutely. So he's like held accountable for everything. But even if you think about his journey with Yang, so Yang is, I'm not going to quite say he was a joke figure, but it was Yang, bless him, as if he's a trier, you know, bless him, you know, we guys not good enough, we all know it. But that quickly turned into Yang's a right wing starter on day one of the season against St. Man.
Talk about an absolute leap for your position. It's somewhere you shouldn't find yourself. And then we said before, see any player that shows something, it's without sounding patronizing, it's not their fault. It's like the Liam Scales thing. It's not Liam Scales' fault that he's shown that he's dependable enough to play. Likewise, it's not Yang's fault that the manager went, oh, here, did him a good turn. And by default, with the lack of numbers, that he finds himself being thrust into the, you are potentially a starter. That's not his fault, that's other people's fault at the club.
We joked about it before as well. Prior, we were talking about getting t-shirts saying the Yang Gang, and try to support the gang.
Give me one of them, mate.
Well, Steve didn't really want to wear it, but the rest of us were up for it. So again, he comes on and he shows things in flashes. Is he the main article? No, he's not. I think there is potential to be a player, and obviously Brendan sees that when others didn't. We were kind of looking at it going, what does he see in this guy? Why is he a first time starter? But then you see flashes, and especially in the Champions League, he had a couple of good turns as well when he was coming on against, even against Bayern Munich. Do you know what I mean? He went for it when he come on, and it's horses for courses, and
again, it comes back to, doesn't it? It's a case of, should he be looked upon as being a solution, let alone the answer? No. He's neither. He should be someone that you maybe have a bit of faith in, that the manager clearly does, that you think, right, okay, I'll keep him around the squad on the periphery, but it's just a sad indictment of where we are going in this game coming this week.
It is. I was talking this morning about some of the rumours surrounding Daizen Maeda and his departure. And my take on that is the fact that, right, you're going to get interest in your top players, and we expect it now. It's kind of normalised that every season we lose a couple, not even just one, a couple of players from your starting 11. And that will work as long as you're on that cycle of constantly bringing in quality during the recruitment windows. And we've not been doing it consistently enough, and this is the issue. So I remember listening to an interview with Gary Neville when he was talking about running a football club and how one bad transfer window takes 5 to undo. So it takes 5 windows to undo one. So if we go back to Brendan's first, you know, we've still got a lot of that kind of batch of players hanging about their club or out on loan, they're still on their payroll. And I think if you miss one transfer window, it affects that season once the cycle comes round, where you sell 2 of your top players, because, you know, 3 or 4 years ago, you should have been already bringing their replacements in. So we're nowhere near that just now, Paddy.
No, we used to talk about it as well. We wouldn't really buy a player until we found out if we were guaranteed the Champions League football. Now, obviously we've got this game coming up against Kairat, and if we do beat them and we're guaranteed the Champions League football, then we don't have to sell a main asset. But if we don't beat them, one of our players is gone. And we used to talk about, we say either Hatate or Daizen or someone who is going to generate that amount of cash is one of the ones that's going to make way. So I think we just need to get out of that model. Like if we lose Daizen Maeda, who are we going to play on the wing? There is nobody. You're going to have Yang coming across there and having James Forrest on the other side. Or you're going to have Yamada playing out of position, a position we've not seen him play. So it's a strange one for me. Again, it comes down to being proactive rather than reactive.
I'd ask Paddy that and put it to yourself as well, just when we were talking, waiting for this. See the Daizen Maeda thing, of course, you don't want to lose him. He's arguably our best striker at the club at this moment in time. It's hard to tell, will he carry on for last season? Could he continue that same vein of form for the full season? But see the panic and the worry and the concern about, you don't want to lose one of your best players, as you say, usually 1-2 each season. But would the fans be less worried about the prospect of losing Daizen Maeda if we had another 2 bangers in and another striker? Would it completely change it? That's what I'm thinking.
I think it would, and this is the issue, because we're constantly getting told the same thing. Everybody's working hard behind the scenes, and it's all coming from Brendan, right? So sometimes I think the professional mask slips a wee bit, and his frustrations come out, not to the same level as Terminado last time round, but he's been frustrated and he's cut a frustrated figure. But Paddy, you've hit the nail on the head for me. We're going to buy nobody of note until we're guaranteed Champions League football. We're guaranteed another 10 game or 8 games and potentially pushing it on from there. The issue I've got with that is how quickly can we do the business?
Exactly. Is it already up and running? Like, we were lucky enough to have Lubo Moravchik over at a barbecue that we had just after the Daizen for yourselves. And we had mentioned our striker situation to Lubo then. We were just kind of talking about the game and whatever coming up. And Lubo mentioned to us David Strelic, obviously Slovan Bratislava, Slovakian guy. And we were like, oh, right, okay. He's one of interest, and he spoke very, very highly of him. So mentality-wise, finishing-wise, he says to be the ideal fit for Celtic. Now, you know how long ago that was, and we weren't in the market for a player then. And now all of a sudden his names came up. It's one of the ones that's coming about. So whether there's any legs in that, that's one that I would like to see kind of come across the line. And if we do get into the Champions League, which, let's face it, is looking positive, I would expect the business to be getting done in the background. I would be hoping that
they get the work done every season. You know, we've told us. That's what the manager said.
You know, the thing I'm going to go back to talking about last season, January, the young boys game. And you're watching that night, and Kyogo scores a hat-trick in the first half, and they're all chopped off. Turns out to be his final game. He doesn't get the fanfare. He doesn't say farewell. Next thing you know, he's gone. It doesn't work out for him, and he's scoring goals and diving last night against Sheffield United for Birmingham. Right? He never once dove when he was at Celtic, but he's diving now. I don't know where that started. So when you look at that, we done that business rapid after the young boys game. Kyogo was in, and Jota was in. Kyogo was gone. So that gives me a wee bit of reassurance that maybe these deals we're just ready to just like pull the trigger on them. And I hope that is the case. But we're not just talking one player here. No. We're talking at least 3. And the rumours during the last 48 hours from Stephen McGowan is 4. So you're looking at getting 4 guys in between the second leg in Kazakhstan and the window closing on the 1st, which is 5 o'clock, I think, on the 1st of September. It's a matter of days. That's all we're going to have to get the business done.
It's the classic sort of Celtic chase, isn't it? But what's frustrating is, you know, the last time we sat here and we spoke about it, and we sort of spoke briefly about how do we think we'll go and how it'll progress and signs and things like that. And I said then, I'll say again, Celtic should always look at the qualifier and think we will sign players because we will qualify for that. Not we might qualify for it. But when they got that draw between Slovan Bratislava and Kara Almaty, they should have been looking at it and saying, extremely winnable. Let's put the foot down. Let's get the players in now. Let them bed in. We will win that game. We're going to the Champions League. Now that it's Almaty, folk want to sit and turn there and talk about the travel and it's this and that. Let's forget it. They'll be getting chauffeured to the best standard, chartered flight, best resting facilities, you know, big long beds, business class, all that kind of stuff. Nothing will be out of sync for them. We're playing a team who have a worse coefficient than St Johnstone, Kilmarnock and St Mirren. I don't care how hot it is in Kazakhstan or how long you're travelling. It's frankly embarrassing. If Celtic cannot beat that team over 2 legs, they deserve nothing. But equally, we need to bring it back to preparations, to people, the custodians of the club that are running it. They should have looked at Kara Almaty and meant, yes, we will be defeating them. And if you say there's names of 4s, believe Balakwisha, supposedly, and use that term, supposedly, qualification, they will sign him. They're talking €5 million there, and then some of the other names that have come round. From what I've seen of the fees that are apparently these 3-4 names that are getting touted around, it's in the bones of £20 million, right? Maybe slightly over. We've still got roughly £21.5 million in player trading asset alone, let alone what's in the bank. So just spend that money that's sitting there.
Yeah, it's ring-fenced almost. It's almost as if we only do business within the buying and selling model rather than actually we've got tens of millions of pounds here. We're not going to be using it for the stadium. And so what are we going to be using it for? And that for me is bad management of the business. It's not a very efficient way to run a business. You're making so much money that you're paying $7 million a year in corporation tax.
Yeah.
You're losing £7 million a year. Now, I'm not saying let's break even every season, but let's show a bit of a statement of intent.
They don't say, well, we pay this amount in corporate tax. should we spending it? Well, show your actions that you want to do that. But no, that's the thing. We've said this before. Celtic's transfer strategy, their player trading, it's not perfect. People will tell you that it's brilliant, but it's not. I'd say it's about 60% good, because we do more often than not turnover. And if you look over the past maybe 5 plus, maybe up to as much as 10, more often than not, we bring in more money in players than we put out. Now that's fine, but every now and then, maybe even every second season, you could easily push that. Newsflash, Celtic go and spend that 20 million plus another 20 million, and they're not going to go out of business, by the way. So I just think that we need to really ramp it up. And so yourself and Quinn, or the last thing you were talking about teams like your Club Bruges, your Sporting Lisbons and that. Why are they doing so well? Because they are constantly developing, they're constantly upping the fees and going that wee bit further. There's no guarantee, but chances are if you put out more often than not a higher fee, you'll get a better grade of player, you'll make more money, and we will not be capped by that £25 million glass ceiling that we seem to have.
You know, I'm going to throw this one over to you, Paddy, see what you think. There's a lot of chat. Whenever you mention Engels, you always mention Engels, Ida and Trusty. The three of them are lumped into the same conversation. So we sell Matt O'Reilly for 26, and we spend that money that we got for Matt O'Reilly on those 3 players. You know, and we did it middle to the end of August. 2 of them came in the last day of August. And you look at that and you think, right, is Matt O'Reilly a better player? Absolutely. On an individual basis, Matt O'Reilly was far better than those 3 guys. But what they produced and what they contributed last season was over 50 games each for Ida and Engels, your favourite player. And Trusty, obviously, he played in every Champions League game that we contributed to last season, the 10 games. He was part of that. So I look at that and I think, right, we spent 26. If you were to say one of them is a roving success, it would be difficult to pick which one it was. So I do agree with you. And I stood up for Engels a fair bit, but I do think he's a work in progress. I don't think he's, at the moment, adapted well to Scottish football. I think he plays pretty well in the Champions League. And that's an issue, because you're only playing 10 games if you've done well in the Champions League. But that shouldn't put us off doing it again. And it's a very small sample size. And I've heard this narrative, you know, Brendan's kind of scared the money men at Celtic into believing we shouldn't be buying in that market. What's your take on it?
I think a lot of people were under the misconception that Arnie Engels was going to come in and be the direct replacement for Matt O'Reilly, and he hasn't been. He's been nowhere near it, let's be honest. I call him out almost every week. His best game was probably against Slovan Bratislava in the Champions League last year. Going forward, I just think he doesn't have the ability for the Scottish football to break down teams and whatever else. Like you said, he's more suited to the Champions League style of football. Now that's all good when you're playing Champions League football all the time, but he's not. Austin Trusty, you want to talk about Austin Trusty? His best game for Celtic was against Atalanta, when he basically stopped every single ball coming into the box. Brilliant. He was outstanding after that game, and I was sitting on the podcast, I couldn't praise him enough. I was sitting going, oh my God, that guy is amazing. Can we get more of him? Daizen Maeda's best performance in the Celtic jersey was probably against Aston Villa, where he scores 2 goals. Now there's 3 Champions League games, and that's your 3 big players that you've brought in, and they've done it on the big stage. Now that's what I would be looking for. Yeah, they might not be hitting the ground running every single SPL game, but in the Champions League, they've done it. They've done it on the big stage. And you want to bring players in that's going to do your bread and butter in the league, because you don't win the league, be all and end all, as you're not going to the Champions League. So guys like Luke McCowan and stuff, proven in the league, knows what he needs to do, knows who he needs to dig in and stuff like that. I'd play him over Engels every single week, just for that simple fact. But then when it comes to the Champions League, you would play Engels. And I just think that the players need to adapt. They need to know where the bread's buttered, basically. They need to know what they need to do on the park, and they need to...
I mean, do you find that frustrating? Sorry, jump in there. Do you find that frustrating, though, that we see players getting up for these big games, but you're not going to have these big games every week, you know? It's like the old joke, kind of, can you do on a wet night or put Dinwall and stuff like that?
Exactly, and that's the be on end. You just need to do it on a wet night.
It's one of the unique things about Scottish football, I guess, isn't it? Especially when you're Celtic and you're trying to progress in Europe. But again, I think that's a consideration. I think we've learned. If we didn't already know that, Paddy, we know it now. That if you bring a player in, because the 3 games you've mentioned, it's really interesting, I would agree with that. That was their individual players' best performances, all in the top level of Champions League football. Yet you see them against Simon Murray against Dundee away, and Trusty's struggling. He's struggling. So we need that as a consideration. The football department need to look at that as well. And it's always going to be difficult to know if a player's going to adapt to Scotland. Absolutely, I totally get that. But I don't think it should affect the club
No.
and having that ambition to say, right, see that guy that you're after, and he's going to benefit you and he's going to be a first pick, he's going to cost you 11 quid. Straight away, they've got this PTSD. Arnie Engels was 11 quid, 11 million quid.
She was 11 quid. Aye. Don't know if I'd pay that for him, to be honest.
But you know, it's almost as if we're suffering from the sins of the past. We can't do that. We can't just say, all right, we're going to regress back to the £3 million model.
No, you can't. And this is what I've been shouting this for the rooftops. People seem to forget here, and I've said it a million times, you would know this. The fees in 9 million, 6 million, 11 million are chump change in world football at this moment in time. Are they big amounts for us? Yes, they are. Of course they are, because that just happens to be that we're so behind the curve that it's, wow, like 11 million, 9 million. The reality is, and I've said this a million times over, we're still buying guys at £250,000, £300,000. We were paying that in the 80s for players, right? We then went and we signed guys, Thompson, Petrov, Sutton, you know, etc., during the Martin O'Neill. People say, we left the Martin O'Neill era in debt. Yes, we did, but it's changed times, right? We were paying £6 million there. We're paying £4 million for Alan Stubbs in 1995. Now, see when you account for 20 odd years of inflation, the absolute financial juggernaut that Celtic are. Again, people call me up, we're not a juggernaut, we are. We're a very big juggernaut in a small pond with great potential to expand beyond that, right? But when you account for inflation and how much money we make, these guys at 9 million, 11 million, they're like 4 million, £3 million pounds. That's the reality, in my opinion.
You're right, because we always flip the valuation forward rather than back. You know, you're spot on. Stubbsy, we outbid Arsenal to buy Alan Stubbs. Because he spoke about it that night. He spoke about it that night. And Fergus McCann had a spreadsheet where he had a value of every player on a spreadsheet. Villa wanted to buy him, and I think they were maybe 800 grand short, so he wasn't going anywhere. But you're spot on when it comes to the fact that it's not big money if you want to make a dent in Champions League.
That's how I can't understand it.
I mean, you guys were talking there about Bruges and Sporting and whatever we invest in our money. We're going to them to buy the players that they're wanting ready because they're replacing with better players. To buy, we're basically going in and taking the dregs for their team to kind of put into our team. When we should be going above them and going, right, wait a minute, we can go to these bigger squads and go, right, we'll give you excess of this.
You know, people are going to clip this to say that I'm suggesting Engels is worth 11 quid.
Oh, 100%. I'll do it myself.
But if we are suffering from those three purchases, I also think you made a good point there, Steve. I think we're also suffering from the O'Neill era of we bought all those guys in who gave us brilliant success and what a time to be alive, but we made no money off any of them. Not one of them had any sell-on value, right, because of their age profile. So now it's like we can't do what we did under O'Neill because of this age profile thing. It got us to our third European final. You know, so let's try and get a bit of balance with that.
I've said it. The term I use is running bills. Now, nobody's saying that you have to always go and buy guys that are, 28, 29, put them on 3-4 year contracts before you know it, they're out the door and they're gone. The reality is, even with guys of a certain age, probably most players' tenure at Celtic is about 2 seasons. If you're lucky, and we have been with some, you'll extend that on. So you either look at it where you buy sheer potential, as we have been done, for the appropriate price, and you hope to cultivate them and you move them on. But alternatively, why are we not looking at guys that are 26, 27, that have the mileage, they've got the experience that you could then bring in and see even if you could still get 2 years out of them. Most good top level players are playing until they're 33, 34. So even at 30, with what they may have done before and what they may have achieved at you will still get back a decent sized portion of it is. Of course, again, depends on what position you are. If that was a striker, probably chances are their value is going to rise. If it's a midfielder, still going to rise. So it needs to be a balancing act. Bit of youth, but Celtic are choking for, desperately shouting out for guys in that 26, 27-year-old bracket that have been there, seen it, done it, 250, 300 games under the belt. That's what Celtic need.
You know this, I said this the other week, and it just occurred to me after all these years. I remember as a young lad reading the Not The View fanzines, right, and it was all about the board. It was all about the board, right, and I was just a young laddie into football, and I just wanted to read about Paul McStay and Frank McAvenny, and it was all about the problems behind the scenes. So from a young age, it's like being politicised at a young age. It was like, wait a minute. And I think that because of that, and then what happened, what transpired in the early 90s with the takeover and Fergus coming in, there's definitely a generation of Celtic fans who the board are always on a short leash because we've seen what just about happened back in the 90s. And I think that's why sometimes we're called obsessed. I remember Cy Ferry on Open Go, and it's probably him that made me start thinking about this. He was like, does any fan base in the world talk about the board more than Celtic fans? Probably not. You could probably say to a normal football fan, name your board members, and they would struggle. You know, maybe beyond the CEO and the chairman, they'd maybe struggle. We know everything about our board members because we hold them to account. But this, I do believe this is due to what happened in the 90s.
I think they've got an overwhelming power over what happens on the pitch, and I don't think they should have. The manager talks about the board and talks about speaking with members of the board and talks about money getting released and things like that. I don't feel like that should be an issue. We've spoke about it previously as well, and it's one thing that we are actually going to be covering. But looking at it, Brendan Rodgers identifies players. These are going to make my team better. Bring them in.
Yeah.
Whether they're 3 million, 4 million, 5 million or upwards at night. If these are players that your manager's identified for the team to come in, then the board shouldn't really have a say on it. But in my opinion, they do have an overwhelming power over what happens on the pitch, and that's probably why we are as frustrated as what we are.
The story of like we've done live events and we continue to do them, and one of the things I always say is it's incredible. I never take it for granted that I'm actually speaking to an ex-Celtic player, somebody who lived their dream, you know. And I remember Paddy McCourt telling the story of him signing. Strachan had nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with Paddy McCourt signing for a football club. And it was Dermot Desmond, you know, and you're thinking, wait a minute, right? Dermot Desmond at that point, yeah, he's on the board of directors, right? He's non-exec. Yes, he's got more shares than anybody else, but he doesn't own the football club.
And you've been saying that constantly all through the past 2-3 weeks.
What other board member could say, right, I seen this guy down the park. Now, Paddy was the Derry Pelly, that's different, right? We need to sign him. But we've done the same with Johnny Kenny.
Mental.
You know, Sligo, we've done it again because somebody's like signed that player. Now, he's also intervened when we were maybe doing the line with managers, and he's intervened and he's brought in Martin O'Neill. He brought in Brendan Rodgers first time round. He brought in Lenny was his man. So I'm not completely criticising what he's done, because there were some moments there you're thinking we needed O'Neill, we needed Brendan Rodgers, you know, we needed these guys to come in. I mean, who would have taken over for Ange? I don't know what anybody was talking about at the time, but Brendan Rodgers was, for me, a stick-on. He's the guy that had to come back. So I'm not completely criticising him, but going back to what Paddy says, Steve-O, Dermot Desmond's got too much control.
It's ludicrous, you know, you guys have been saying it before, I've said it as well. He's a majority shareholder. He's not an owner. He keeps on, every time Celtic owner, he's read it in articles and stuff, it's a second dynasty is what we've got. You know, we talk about what happened with the Kellys. This is a new dynasty that we're in, and it's unfortunate. It's actually quite embarrassing. When you troll through that Celtic board, bar 1 or 2 members who are on it, who are meant to be impartial advisors, by the way, that are brought in to hold the board to account, that have maybe been there for 2, maybe 3 years in some cases. On average, most of them have been in previous positions and or on the board for circa 20 years. Now, there's no any other company, business, whatever, in world that will have that level unless they are an internal, like a family-owned business. It just simply doesn't happen. The board need to be held to account, but the problem is they quite clearly don't want to upset their pals or their pal, who's Dermot Desmond. Now, I said this when we were talking about the thing where managers pleading. See if Brendan Rodgers is that pally with Dermot Desmond to say, why doesn't he go to him directly and focus that he's had a meeting? But I'm talking like DEFCON stuff on the phone. Here, big man, what's happening? I need these players. What's the worst that's going to happen? He says, no. Because I don't think he's going to follow up with his pal if you believe that and or sack him. The Dermot Desmond power, for me, is an absolute joke, and I would love to see someone worth their salt come in and give him a hard question to answer with a decent opportunity to put it. Now, I'm with you on it. I think he's done a lot of good things where he's brought in the likes of your Robbie Keane and Bellamy and help facilitate things like that. But the notion that he needs to get signed off on something that's over 3 million is quite frankly laughable. It's embarrassing. It shows you how stuck in our ways are, and ultimately how scared of those that are supposed to be running the club are of someone who isn't running the club. Go and sign the player at 6 million, 7 million. If he phones up and goes, oh, I'm not happy with that. All right, very good, mate. Phone down. Is he going to suddenly sell his shares? I highly doubt it.
No, exactly. And see the thing, we end up losing out on players that could improve the squad, right? So McGinn, we'll be talking about him for the end of time.
Yeah.
We'll always talk about McGinn, you know, and it's one of the ones where anybody who watched him as a 17-year-old at St Mirren, never mind Hibs, knew this boy was well worth a punt. Even more so with the links to Celtic daft, Paddy. And we've seen that one just kind of fritter away because of egos between two individuals, and that should never ever happen. But even this season, there's names like you guys when you're doing your shows and you're looking at, right, who's linked to us today or in the last 48 hours, and names keep coming up, but we miss out on targets time and time again. Found it really interesting yesterday. I read an article which was taken off the transcript of Go Radio, and Mark Guidi, who we've worked with loads with the live events and stuff. Mark, you know, is very well connected. This is the thing, he is very, very well connected. And when I hear him talking, I'm like, it's normally with, for me, I think he's got a bit of kudos. It's not like he's just opening his mouth and letting his belly rumble. There's plenty of Scottish pundits who do. But Mark does his homework. And he was talking about Lennon Miller, right? So if you'd asked me, were Celtic interested in Miller, my answer would have been, we should have been, but I couldn't have told you either way. And he says that Rodgers was desperate in January to sign Lennon Miller. Now, the argument is always, yeah, but he was always wanting to go to Italy. Test it. Test the water. He's an 18-year-old footballer. So make him the offer. It's a wee bit like the Daniel Cummins thing, right? We allowed him to go into his last 6 months before making an offer. So get in there before West Ham can make him a bigger offer. And it's like, before Udinese offer 4.75 or whatever it is to Motherwell, make your bid. I think Motherwell, according to this transcript, Motherwell wanted 5 million quid. Maybe the boy did want to go to Italy. Maybe his old man wanted him to go to Italy as well. I would understand that when you look at the success of some of the guys.
Yeah, definitely.
But challenge it. Change his mind. You know, and we didn't.
We spoke about that on the way here as well. We're saying about Lennon Miller, and obviously going to Italy, the chance to play out there playing in Udinese, you just look at guys like Scott McTominay, Billy Gilmore, Ferguson, Hickey. You could go on.
It's incredible, isn't it?
All these guys have been out there and they've done.
It's a real golden era, isn't it, for Scottish football out there?
Yeah, it's incredible, and it's only going to make these guys better. Do I think him signing for Celtic would have been an excellent signing? I don't think he would have been getting in the squad. If I'm honest, in that position, we're pretty well equipped. Let's face it, we've got Arnie Engels, we've got Hitani, we've got...
Buy him and loan him out to somebody in Italy.
Exactly, yeah.
We've got hit though with the Celtic tax, because 4.75 million, that's, again, I say it, chump change is nothing. Why not 5 million? Sign him. But would they have, Celtic have went in with the attitude of go, no, we'll match your 5 million or 4.75 because you're not getting any higher than that, by the way. And we know you want to come to Celtic, but then what we're selling it for. Is that what scares us off the Lennon Miller? Is it the fact that they think they're probably going to ramp the price up versus would they let him go to somebody else?
Aberdeen done it with Majowski, didn't they? We went in for Majowski for, we bid 4.5 million or something for him.
And we were scouting him, Paddy.
Yeah.
Aye, we were scouting him for ages since Rodgers came in, you know. So this is my big concern about leaving it until the Champions League qualifier. Like you say, we should have a wee bit more of a statement in intent anyway, where we're bold enough to say we are going to get through this, right? Not to the point where you're going to bankrupt the club.
No.
You wouldn't anyway. You know, you'd maybe need to do something in January if it didn't work right. So that's fine, you can do that. But also the fact that if we leave it so late, some of these targets, because there's a list of them, names that kept popping up, and you're thinking, all right, good sources, we probably are. These guys are now signing for other teams.
Moving on.
You know, some of the wingers we were interested in have gone elsewhere. And it's like, no wonder, they're not going to wait and see. And meanwhile, we're holding on to guys like Marco Tilio and potentially Yang as well.
You look at we mentioned Balakwisha. How long has his name been circling about Celtic? How long was Vistagarten circling about Celtic?
That was embarrassing, wasn't it?
And it's getting to that stage again. There's so many players, and then it comes out that we're linked with Raheem Sterling and that we're linked with Federico Chiesa.
On that story, did you see that apparently the Grealish thing made contact? Is that just for Celtic to go, oh, by the way, we're trying to get these really good players, so we can't
What do you make of it? Let's talk about that then, because I read about it this morning. And Grealish, obviously, his career's going to go off-piste, right? So if he's going to get an offer in English football, that he's going to take that. Of course he is, right? Yeah. But yeah, Celtic, Napoli were mentioned in dispatches. I mean, we could not have brought a player like him in terms of the financial commitment to Celtic. So where does that story come from, do you think?
You look at it, the old pals, Callum McGregor played with him, didn't he, when he was in Norwich. So they had to be bit there. I think, listen, there might have been an approach there, Callum's maybe brought it up, two pals talking at some point, do you know what I mean? And it's been mentioned, oh, why don't you come to Celtic? I think there might have been some in there, but again, it was all a bit farcical, as is the Sterling one and the Federico Chiesa one as well. I think they're a bit too far out for me. Yes, they would come up here and do an absolutely fantastic job. Of course, you would love it. But I think getting linked with guys like this is just farcical. And we need to get the finger out and get Balikwisha over the line. 5 million. Do it.
I could tell you how that inquiry would have went. Hello, is that easy? Yeah, it's right. How much is he making? All right, okay. Will we offer 50? Oh, no, right, okay, thank you. That's how that would have went. I think in some cases it'll either just be Celtic's name getting thrown in the mix and or Celtic wanting to seem like they're making moves.
And then putting it out there.
You're
right.
To sort of curry.
We are serious, absolutely.
This is the level of ambition we're going for. But then when you look at other things that have been or transfer dealings, the boy Brahim, for example, I've never been absolutely more affronted and embarrassed for Celtic as a club when you've got another sort of director and or owner, whatever you want to call it, coming out and essentially saying, yeah, you should be more like them when it comes to your dealings. Ha ha ha.
That was the ha-ha bit.
That's
honestly. See, the thing, Steve, right? You guys, we certainly get stick. You'll get stick because, and I was saying this before we recorded, I take it with a pinch of salt because actually every Celtic fan just wants the best for Celtic, right? So I think that when you're being critical, which you've got to be, if you actually want to look at every subject in the world of Celtic, there's going to be quite a lot of that you don't agree with. And we're talking about some of it now. People get defensive of the club. And then they think, well, you're only doing it because of traction, or you're trying to get monetization or clickbait. So they're looking at you as the enemy. But actually, we both want the same result here. We both want the same result. So that's just fans looking at fans going, you've got an ulterior motive. But see, when an ex-player like Benji Siegrist comes out and says, actually, shambles.
Yeah.
And then a director of a club that we've actually been negotiating with, laughing at us and saying, oh, the template, look at Rangers, maybe they should be a wee bit more like them. That's Paddy when it comes to, this isn't just guys on podcasts. Nah. It's actually the real world, and it's other people with no skin in the game calling them out.
As it's noticeable, and we had said it before as well, you look at it, Celtic, the market, what did we bid? Something like 2.5 million or something for Brahim, and they were like, no, you're nowhere near. You're not even touching the size. And we had said if Rangers were in the same boat as what we are and had our financial backing and whatever, they would have put the sword in. They would have put a nail in the coffin. They would have went for it, and they would have invested everything and pushed and pushed and pushed. Now we are holding on to things and we're penny pinching, and we've lost out on guys. McGinn, like you said, we'll be talking about that to the end of time. We're doing the same thing with Balikwisha. We're just not going in there and doing the business early enough. Now, when it comes to the stage where we do qualify for the Champions League, they know we've got that money now. So Balikwisha's price is no longer 5 million. It's then 7, 8. The same thing that happened with Engels, the same thing that happened with Ida. The price then goes up. Now, I want to be on record saying that I hope to God that Arne Engels is Player of the Year this year. I would love it. I would love people to come on and slate me and say, Paddy, I told you it would come good. Can I see it? No, I can't. But I would absolutely love nothing more than every player that pulls on that jersey, like you said before, living our dream, to go out there and do the best that they can do. And that's exactly what we want as fans.
You know, you've made out a really good point there in so far as the price tag is not the fault of the player.
Yeah.
So if the rumours are true, and you only have to look at the dates, we signed 2 of the guys on the last day of the window. Let's say that because of that, and because of our financial situation, which is well known, and it's public data, we've overpaid, let's say, by £2 or £3 million per player.
Yeah.
And then you look at Engels and say, right, what if we had paid 8 million for a 20-year-old who'd played a season in the Bundesliga? Would still be getting all the slagging, right? But it's a bit less. Yeah. What about Adam Maeda going from 8.5 to 6.5? Would he be? So then you're thinking, well, actually, that's not the player's fault. That's the way we do business that's caused a wee bit of that. Not all of it, not all the friction, but a bit of that friction has been caused by the fact that we were slow to the party.
That is not. I saw the manager come out, as we say, and they get the work done. Now I commented on and said that's not to be applauded, not by the manager, not by any fan, not by any podcast, any platform. Yes, we signed players, but we have shown, as you've just said, to our detriment. We spend over the odds. Now again, whoever had put out there, whether it's fact or not, the chart that Arne Engels and Ida combined could have cost £5-6 million less. Whether that's actually fact or not, it's neither here nor there. When the rumours initially first started for Arne Engels, I'm talking right at the start of the summer, it was Augsburg wanted 7.5 to 8 million euros. So you do the math and reduce that down. But as we say, we let ourselves sell these key players. We get in a position where the assets are dry and they know you've got the money, they know there's desperation, and it ramps up. The one thing I wish that Celtic did do, and I don't know, maybe they are doing it, was see if they went and approached Augsburg. Say it's just Arne Engels. There's another Arne Engels out there right now. Celtic approached that club early on, straight at the start of the season. Maybe he's on the periphery of the squad. Maybe he's unsure if he's going to get selected for the squad going forward. You put out your best offer, you lay out your plans, tell him what you want to do. He maybe turns around and says, no, I'm fine right now. Hopefully I can break into the squad. Because we're always told that Celtic are looking for these guys that might just not make they're good at quality, but they might not make the squad. I hope that they're making the approaches early so that see when it does come to scrambling time and they've got 5, 6 offers, they'll always remember that Celtic came first and there's what they offer. They've come back, they've showed consistency, they want me, and that can be the difference. But I don't ever get that feeling. I always feel like we're just chasing after and snatching and grabbing in the dark.
I think it's complacency through having so much money, where you think that money can sort it. Oh, we can go in, it might cost a wee bit, but we'll go in, and that's complacency. So when you look at the Benji Siegrist comments, and you're thinking to yourself, that was a really, at the time, I remember when I was signing him, he was one of the guys that you're like, see outside the Celtic and Rangers at the time, absolutely. When we were bombarding Dundee United, he was pulling saves out everywhere. And you kind of thought, he's going to push.
Brotto, Pap, too.
Brotto, I know. Wee Jackie says he was the best goalie he played with at Celtic, Brotto. So when we signed him, you understood why. And then he just didn't play. He played 2 League Cup games. And then it was just like the forgotten man. So you take that into account because there's maybe a wee bit of sourness there, the way that he was treated, etc. But what he's saying there is there was a move lined up in January, and for 4 weeks, Celtic were uncontactable by the club that were trying to sign him.
And that's what's happening to Vitelli or that, for example? Is that what's repeating itself right now?
Yeah. That's a worry, but it's complacency for me. It's like you're lording it up because look at all this money we've got. And I just think in terms of the board, what we've heard a lot of, I don't know if you guys are getting this, yeah, we need to do something about it. Absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
But how do we do it? How do we do it? And people are saying boycotts. Well, for me, and I've said this already, boycotts back in the day worked because it was a strategy that we had. And because of the great work that had been done via the likes of Matt McGlone and these guys who had set up Celts for Change, they knew, the businessmen, David Lowe, Fergus McCann, they knew that if Celtic had an attendance that was below a certain figure, the bank, it would basically be a massive red flag for the bank, and they would call in because you're no longer a going concern. You're hitting that figure that means that you're no running as a going concern. Then they would call in their overdraft because they would see it as too high a risk. So they knew, so let's boycott it, let's get it below that figure. And what did Matt and these guys do? They actually had the clickers, they were counting people at the turnstiles because they knew Celtic had a history of pretending that the figure was this, normally a lot lower than it was, but they would have done it the other way around, that, oh, there was 18,000 at the game when there was maybe 8 at the game. So, and in those days, the season tickets, you couldn't count the bums that weren't on the seats because we didn't have a lot of season tickets. So that's what they did. So I think what they had is they had their season ticket holders probably turned up for the game at the time, 6,000, and then a few thousand through the gate. Under 10,000, boycott worked. Compare that to now, your boycott's not going to work.
No.
It simply isn't going to work. And people don't want to hear that because they think you're scared of taking action. No, but it needs to be a different type of action, doesn't it?
We're in a different time, aren't we? You know, we look at the financials and we see how much Celtic make from external revenue as no match day. Now, we spoke about it, didn't we, and says, what could we do? Now, some people choose and say, don't buy shirts, don't buy merchandise. It's worldwide, right? So if you even just isolate that to Glasgow and Scotland, folk don't do it. So drop in the ocean. It's not going to really hit them that hard. Potentially, we've always championed to say, back the team, support, turn up, be there. But it could maybe be something, I don't know if it's not going to be a grassroots movement like it was before, or people out handing out flyers and stuff like that. It's totally different. I don't know, just making in my head, could it be a case of everybody goes to Celtic Park, the scene steady when you go in there and you're buying your pies and your whatever it is, you know, spending the money inside the stadium, give it to the vendors outside so you're not ruining your match day experience, but you're just not giving it. I don't know, would it be a significant drop if that every match day that they say, oh, well, we normally take in X 100,000 on that, but it's dried up. Over time with that drip feed, maybe at least it send a silent message, possibly.
The way I see it is boycotts are not going to work because it will be a drop in the ocean and there's always going to be somebody else. And also trying to, strangely enough, now that we've got all these modes of communication, it's harder to get people to club together. You imagine even trying to get all the podcasters in one room. Yeah. I mean, it's fractured. It's a fractured nature. The more communication avenues we've got, the less communication happens. Why do their club not speak to us? You know, it's so easy. They could do things live. They could go on YouTube. They could speak to us every day if they wanted to. You'd probably get bored of that, but they don't. So I don't think it would be something, because the boycotts last time around were to save the club. This is just for change. It is completely different. It's not to save the club. It's for change. I think you tap into the hugely influential ultra groups. They've started movements on the terraces. They've started movements with banners that have gone global. They can embarrass the club in a good way, not in a bad way. They can embarrass the club in a good way. You think of the Champions League game that's getting broadcast all over the globe. If a message was sent on the tifos to the board, that's going to go global, isn't it? So I think they are hugely influential in this movement, if there is a movement, but also think it comes down to people who may not be on the board, but have invested and do have shares in Celtic. And it's about trying to bring people together so that it's not just some guys like us on a podcast. And by the way, they go out to a lot of ears and a lot of people watch them, etc. Did the club take any notice? Probably not. Unless we say something that really annoys them, the club aren't interested in what we're talking about. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, totally. What you're saying about the fan groups and stuff doing a T-phone thing, I think that's a great idea, but then on the other side of it, the club could come out and just ban the tifos.
They control it, don't they?
They control that side of things as well. So it's a tough one for me. It's something that you've got to look at, and I think at this day and age, there isn't really any way that we can do it. Is there, like we spoke about?
You've got our season ticket money, Paddy.
They've got that.
They're happy with that, aren't they?
Yeah.
And you're right, and this is what I'm talking about with the level of control. It's got to a point now where we're massive and we're really, really rich, but how much say do we have as fans in this? None. Exactly. Zero. And that's a concern as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
There needs to be some sort of, we keep saying it, board is saying it, it's communication, isn't it? There needs to be some sort of, they do the Celtic survey here where they get absolute nonsense.
Do you ever get the results of that?
Yeah, so the survey comes out and asks you all sorts of garbage and folk will send it, but they should have, they don't do the fans forum stuff, but they should have, similar to what they do with an AGM, where they should have an interest, whether it's an open invite, whether it's, you know, fan media, fans, regular fans off the street that aren't season ticket holders, whatever, that's the way you should go. Get them in the room and they should basically just face up to their responsibilities, put their faces out there, put their voices and their opinions out there and be asked the hard questions. Uncensored now, of course, they'll want a level of control because you don't want folk in there getting off their nut and shouting and swearing and kicking off. But there needs to be a level of transparency and good, proper communication. The reality is they won't want to hear it, but that would be a good opening and a good sort of insight for them to try and do that, to invite the regular fan along, to ask them the question and answer it rather than spinning it.
You know the thing, right, if we say we need fan representation on the board, they'll say, but we're all fans. You know, so it's like, but you just live in the culture of, you know, separating fans who are paying customers to sitting in a boardroom with the prawn sandwich brigade. There's a difference, right? Because they're not hearing what fans are saying, or they refuse, or they block it out. Paddy, do you think fan representation, and what I mean by that, and by the way, who that person is and how they come to that, who knows? Because that would be such a difficult decision. So many people would disagree, regardless who got that position. But I think having somebody on the other side of the curtain could make it. I mean, listen, would they listen to you? I think you could make enough noise. I think you could make enough noise. And it goes back to like support liaison. I feel so sorry for JP Taylor, right? Yeah. Because a club of this size needs a whole team of liaison officers, a whole team, a whole squad, and he's got to do it all himself. So I don't know if they would want us behind closed doors to hear what's going on, but I think it's the only way forward. And in the meantime, we need to use all these platforms to communicate with fans.
Yeah, that's it. And doing things like this, I think, is an absolutely brilliant idea. Like getting our two platforms together and going out there and showing that we're all together. We all want the best thing for Celtic. And I think that maybe once a year if the club, like you said, invited us in
You know,
and had a meeting with Michael Nicholson or Dermot Desmond, imagine, do you know what I mean? Being in that room and being able to just say, like, listen, this is the frustrations. This is what we're getting feedback from our fan base. What's your opinion on that? That we can feedback and things like that. Like they do a Q&A with certain players, like you seen one with Kieran Tierney when he was coming back, ask Kieran any questions, you know what I mean? And things like that. Can you imagine doing that with a member of the board? It's just laughable, do you know what I mean?
the thing with that is it would definitely work, Paddy.
course it
And then because, and it's a wee bit like the jerseys, I'm going to come back to you.
So
with
do
the
you remember
jerseys.
the Peter Law one where he answered all our questions?
Oh
That
my
was
God.
how bad that was.
That was terrible. That was terrible.
Oh, I can't
It
remember.
was staged.
Yep.
And the thing is, the minute you're on that club platform, it's staged, right? So you need to get it away from that kind of the realms of that. Even the fans forum, Paul Tisdale done a presentation, and unless you were one of the people in that room, you didn't know what he said. So somebody who was there passed us their notes. They had taken notes. They passed us their notes. So we got some information about what was said. But he was basically saying, this is our vision. This is how we're going to recruit. This is how we're going to develop. This is our vision for the youth development. This is our vision for the women's team. That was not broadcast to the Celtic fan base. It wasn't shared. Nobody's heard the guy speaking.
Yep.
So why? I find it bizarre. And I think the way forward is you club all the platforms together. Because, I mean, let's be honest, there's so many bloggers and fanzines and podcasts and videographers and all this kind of stuff. And then you can then share that with a wider audience. I think that is the way forward. I said the same about the jerseys. You and I love the jerseys, and you've got a great jersey story. And, you know, you're then looking at all these releases that Adidas are doing for various other teams, and you're like, that's so much better than what we've got. That's so much better than what we've got. We done a wee special last week.
Yeah,
I'm going to tell you why we did it, right? It's cards on the table. So I had gone to the club a few months ago and a number of different ideas. Things like what we're talking about today. I think we need to do this. This would work, and this would work better for engagement and stuff. And to be fair, they listened, and they listened intently and everything else, but then nothing, right? So one of the things I suggested was, I love jerseys. I would help to organise some kind of an event where you launch your jerseys. Now you imagine you could probably fill this venue down there with fan media.
Oh, wow,
right?
yeah.
Where there's going to be a reveal. There may be a few wee Q&As on the stage. You might even have somebody from Adidas telling you how this whole process works. I'd be up for that. You go away with a bit of content that you then share on your channel, and it's out there. You're actually advertising the products for the club. You're promoting them. I says, we need to do something. And never heard back, right? And then some of the big Liverpool channels, and I get that the coverage is bigger because of the league that they're in. I'm not going to say they're a bigger club. They're in a bigger league. They're making more money. So Adidas went to some of the big podcasters. The Anfield Wrap were flown out to headquarters in Adidas over in Germany, and basically were given a review on the new kits. Redmen TV got an unboxing of every single item. What did we get? Right, nothing. Right, nothing. And we weren't asking for freebies. We wanted to be at a launch where we could share it, and we could maybe speak to a couple of players, maybe some of the men, some of the women, and then share that with the audience. But it never happened. So we decided to do our own wee show where we rated the 3 jerseys, and then we're going to send it to Adidas and say, look, we will work with you when it comes to creating content. And we've got a whole host of other podcasters who would like to do the same because the club basically ignored us. And I thought, when you pitch it and you think it's a good idea in my head, maybe it's not a good idea, but then Liverpool do something, you think, well, this is the way it works.
Yeah.
What do you make of the 3 jerseys?
Yeah, I'm torn. I like the home shot. I do like the home shot. I'll be honest. I do. I think it's in the right direction. The
Pajama top.
top, whatever you want to call it. I'm not.
Try to like it.
I'm not
Tried.
mad on it. I can see, if we discussed it last time, I can see why it'll be popular. It's very much a holiday top. I think it looks like a football top. No, I don't. I think it looks like one of these sort of like leisure wear type tops. If you took a sponsor off, it could be something like that. The homage to the sort of Larson 95 to sort of 96, 97 era top, that's all right. It's all right. I've seen it.
Good launch video.
Oh, cracking launch video, and an annoying launch video as well, because I'm going to have to buy one of those tracky tops that Gillespie was wearing, which will be like 80 quid or something like that, no doubt. But no, they're all right. They're all right. But I think, see, when you see some of the tops that have came out but just look at the Roma one, for example, right? That's a layup. That, you know, I put a Celtic badge on that. Or the one that I was born when I come here, the 125-year Germany one. You take that badge off, make that green, make those piping green, stick a Celtic badge on that. Wow, all-timer.
Yeah.
It's, we've been done dirty, I've got to say.
Like, see the Jamie Top one, right? Nottingham Forest away. It's got the same template. Have a look at it. Night and day. It is beautiful the way they've done it. It's just the use of colour. It's the colour scheme, absolutely. And these faded hoops, just get rid of them and just use a nice colour scheme. So I don't know if you're as into the jerseys as Steve-O is, Paddy. What's your take on the three tops?
I'm your stereotypical Celtic dad. If something comes out and it's got a Celtic badge on it, I am buying it 100%, whether I like it or not. So all of the jerseys.
The problem.
I'm part of the problem, mate. Yeah, you spoke about their boycotting buying the merchandise. I can't. I keep doing it. It's one of the things. I remember Kieran Tierney getting interviewed and they asked him how many Celtics tops do you have, and he said all of them. I'm that guy as well. I've got my wee collection there, so I'll go out and buy all the merchandise, like Steve says, the hoodies, the jumpers, everything. Whether I like them or not, it's got a Celtic badge on it, so I'm pretty much buying it. So that's where
You're
I'm at.
listening to yourself here.
Can't help it. It's an affliction. A couple of predictions for the season. You guys will come back on hopefully during the campaign. Will we get into the league stage of the Champions League, Steve-O?
I've got to say, I've got no doubt in my mind. And I hate that because it's one of these ones, get it clapped in case it doesn't happen. But I see it, if something can't get past Cara Almaty, then they don't deserve anything. And woe betide those in charge if we don't. I think we'll qualify.
Yeah.
Do I think we will have as good a season as we did last time round? Well, it's down to the luck of the draw, but it's also down to what you can do to improve that situation. So I'll reserve judgment until potential signs come in the door. But yeah, I think we'll get there. Just how it pans out is the other thing.
Yep. Paddy?
Yeah, I'm all in with that as well. I think it'll be easy enough against Cara, and I think we'll be shooting in. Aye.
Will we keep Daizen Maeda?
I'm wrestling with it. My head tells me no. My head tells me no. I'm a great believer that there's no smoke without fire, and I've heard enough things previously to reports coming out. I wouldn't ever claim to be in the know whatsoever, but sometimes you hear certain things and then a couple of days later something drips out and you go, that's a strange coincidence. I think if we get offered what the rumours are of 25, 27 million, I think they will. But it all hinges on if we get in the reinforcements. As like I said earlier, if we had those two wingers and another striker, would we all be panicking about losing Daizen Maeda? Well, certainly. Probably not. He couldn't replace his work rate. But he's in 2 years, his contract. He's at the absolute optimum time to sell him. And unless he signs another contract, yes, Celtic will sell him. And I say that with a heavy heart and real worry.
You're basing it on facts and experience, though. That's what you're doing. What about yourself, Paddy?
Yeah, again, similar. I'd love to say that we'll hold on to him. I hope we can. But I think going forward, if we are going to be bringing in 3-4 players, then I think somebody has to make way for that. And I think at the kind of money we're talking, like Steve says, 27 million, Celtic aren't going to knock that back. Not a chance.
Unless they give him what he wants, which is start playing through the middle. If he suddenly started playing tomorrow night against Falkirk through the middle, and then you threw him into the next game against Cara through the middle, you go, oh, he's not going to leave. But whilst he's still out in that wing, by design, then I think there's every chance you could lose him.
We had said it before as well. I mean, you look at his family life, he's very much a family man. And I've sat in the main stand, like right in front of where his family are. And when he's out there running about, his kids are delighted. They're up at the window and they're waving to everyone and things like that. And he's obviously settled in Glasgow. There's a happy man there. Do you know what I mean? You might not see it. People talk about body language on the arc and things like that.
Keep him happy.
Keep him happy. Totally. Exactly. See if he wants 50 grand a week and he play through the middle, give him it. Throw it at him. Let's do it. Like we said, you're not going to replace somebody with that work rate. No. You're really not. Big Ange still talks about
unique.
it.
He is unique. I hope you're right, guys. I hope we do get through to the Champions League proper. And I hope we do that with Daizen Maeda. So we shall see. And, you know, yous are welcome back on a Celtic State of Mind any time. But thank you once again for joining us on a Celtic State of Mind.
That's good, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks once again for joining us on A Celtic State of Mind. Join us next Friday at 6 o'clock for This Is ACSOM.